I'm a reporter with Euronews in Brussels, and I'm delighted to take a break from the day job and the news cycle to be with you today for the 6th edition of the Women of Europe Awards. A warm welcome to all of you watching from all across the continent on the European Movement Facebook Live site, on Twitter, on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And a big hello to all those nominated for awards. And of course, hello to all the members of the jury and to all the members of the European Movement International and all those members of the European Women's Lobby that are watching us today. And if you're tweeting, do use that hashtag Women of Europe. Now, in just a minute, we'll be hearing from the rector of the College of Europe and the former EU Foreign Affairs Chief. That's, of course, Federica Mogherini. But first, let's find out more about the Women of Europe Award and bring in Eva MAYDELL, the Bulgarian MEP from the European People's Party and also the president of the European Movement International. I'd also like to say hello to RASCHE Safrani, the president of the European Women's Lobby. They're both also jury members. Lovely to see you there. Thank you so much for joining us. Eva, I'd like to start with you. If you just tell us a little bit more about the award.
Thank you very much, Maya, for agreeing to host tonight's special event for the European movement, for the European Women's Lobby, but also for all European women. It gives me great pleasure to participate in this ceremony and to celebrate such an important award that is significant for all of us. And while preparing for tonight's ceremony, I remember the quote during the debate for gender parity in top positions in the European Union after the 2019 elections. I think it was the former president of the Council, Donald Tusk, who said, "Europe is a woman." And this may be one of the best images for Europe ever made. And he was so right, because to have a modern and developed Europe, we need, I think, the active participation of women without discrimination, without prejudice, and most importantly, on equal footing as men. So while we are still far from creating a perfect Europe, Europe that nurtures, Europe that recognizes the throne a woman can sit on, it is true that women have naturally embedded qualities that bring a touch of, I call it, sensibility to the world. And Europe would rather be a bit lost without, I think, the compassion and comprise and patience out of these three very vital, in my opinion, things that help shape Europe, not only through the past year, but I think overall in these troubling times that we live in today. And I think, speaking of these uncertain times, I think the COVID crisis demonstrated in a more assertive way that ever to what extent our society relies on women for their functioning, especially in extraordinary circumstances. Women have been truly at the front line in this pandemic, be it in hospitals, be it in schools, in shops. And I think the world became troubled at the sight of the pandemic, but those women here this evening really triumphed, just like a real force of nature. So I think every nominee here this evening has strengthened the future of Europe through power, through action, through business, youth activism. And being a woman in Europe really entails courage and dedication, bravery. This is a diverse range of traits that unite all those admirable, incredible women here this evening, with which we could really, I believe, build a more stronger, a more resilient, and importantly, empowered Europe. So all of those excellent ladies that we have joining us this evening have demonstrated that they can achieve great success in their professional lives. And we are not here to celebrate just their nominations, but most importantly, their outstanding commitment to what they believe in and how hard they have worked for it. So after all, Europe is a woman, and I'm very proud to be one. So thank you very much for joining us tonight and having this meaningful event take place in these extraordinary times, but I'm glad to be together.
Thank you so much, Eva MAYDELL there, Bulgarian MEP from the European People's Party and the President of the European Movement International, for those opening remarks. Thank you so much. And now, RASCHE Safrani, the President of the European Women's Lobby. What about you? Why do you think it's so important to have an award like this?
Thank you very much. At the European Women's Lobby, we are proud to co-organize these awards every year with the European Movement International, which I would like to thank for the initiative and excellent collaboration. It is an honor for me personally to be part of the jury of these awards as president of the largest umbrella organization of women's rights organizations in Europe. We couldn't be happier to take this chance to celebrate all the great women of Europe and their contribution to the advancement of our society, especially in the context of the COVID pandemic, as you have mentioned before, Eva, which keeps affecting women's lives and rights directly and indirectly too. At the European Women's Lobby, we particularly care to give prominence to the achievements of women coming from very diverse backgrounds. And we think these awards are an important opportunity in this sense too. From their role in protecting our climate and environment, to mobilizing for human rights and against discrimination, and stepping up in leadership and entrepreneurial positions, even at a young age. Today, we are going to honor the work of great women who also empowered other women through their work. Indeed, we'd like not to forget about the less visible, unpaid care burden that many women have taken on during the pandemic, and that keeps holding many of them behind to earn a living, fulfill their ambitions, or simply live a life free from hardship and violence. Let's celebrate our successes today as one more step ahead in the fight for equality and women's rights.
Okay, RASCHE Safrani, thank you so much for that, the President there of the European Women's Lobby. And on that note of great women, I'd now like to bring in Federica Mogherini, Rector of College of Europe and also a jury member, to share some words with us today and set the stage for this 6th edition of the Women of Europe Awards. Federica Mogherini, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's an honor for me to join you tonight, even if only remotely, unfortunately, but these are the times we're living. And luckily we have the means to join and do this kind of events that are so important every year, also in times where social distancing is a must. Let me start on a personal note. I perfectly remember the day when I was awarded the prize, and it was for me extraordinarily emotional and really an important moment. And I remember how I felt, and I hope that every single woman and girl that has been a nominee or is going to receive the award tonight will feel a little bit of the same emotion and proud that I felt that time. And so for me, it's only natural now to somehow pay back and be part of the jury. It's a great honor. It has been great for me to go through the different profiles. As it was just mentioned, it's exciting to see how diverse the profiles of the nominees and the awarded are. And I think this reflects very well the diversity of women in Europe, each of them contributing in its own way, in her own way, to the greatness of our union and somehow the resilience of our societies in all different sectors. And I would just like to celebrate tonight the power of the role models that these women represent. These women, and behind them, represented by them, the many other women that are sometimes not visible enough, but are indeed the backbone of our societies and inspire so many other women with their example, with their daily work. I would like to share with you one little story today that is about the College of Europe. As you know now, I'm director of the College of Europe in Bruges, and one of the powers of the rector is to nominate every year the patron de promotion, the patron of the promotion of the students. And I decided when I started last year as director to try to nominate only women as patrons for the next promotions, because we've had so many men in the past, and because I think that it is extremely important to make the women of Europe, the women that have been also the founding mothers of Europe, visible. Not only to pay tributes, but also to show other women that if they did it, it is possible for all of us to do it, and that our contributions is needed and is precious. So this year at the College of Europe, we have as a patron de promotion Eliane Vogel-Poskier, a Belgian lawyer that has been fighting all her life for the fighting against the gender pay gap and for women equality in the social Europe. This is just an example of how you can contribute to women in Europe in any position you're in. You don't need to be in institutions, you don't need to be in politics. You can really contribute to a Europe that is valuing the role of women in any position you are and supporting other women around you. Again, you can do it in every sector of professional private life. And I believe that the awards that we're giving tonight are going to showcase different profiles, different backgrounds, in a very inspiring manner. So I would like to thank you for the honor of being part of the jury, of participating to this awarding ceremony tonight, and looking forward to the continuation of our program. Thank you.
And thank you so much to you as well, Federica Mogherini there, the Rector of College of Europe. And thanks to Eva MAYDELL and Rekha Safrani as well, speaking to us a little bit earlier. Now, the Women of Europe Awards is about celebrating wonderful women in 4 categories. There's the women in power, women in action, women in business, and women in youth activism. Now, the jury, made up of female leaders from all different fields, received numerous nominations from all across the board, from civil society, from political groups, from NGOs and academia. And after 2 rounds of votes, nailed down the nominees and then the winners. Not an easy task at all. So with that, we can kick off with the first category, that is Woman in Power, zooming in on women showing extraordinary political leadership in Europe. In this category, there were 3 women shortlisted. Kauscher Boegelect, she's a Dutch politician and climate activist who at just 27 got elected into the Dutch parliament, a first for a climate striker. Then Dr. Angela Merkel, Chancellor of Germany for 16 years, named by many of her peers as one of the most influential politicians here in Europe. And the third, Silvia Costa, the Extraordinary Commissioner of the Italian government, a former journalist in fact, and she was also an MEP from 2009 to 2019. So for more on the Women in Power Awards, now I'd like to bring in jury member Pia Arenkilde-Hansen, the Director General of the European Commission's DG Communications, and also the sponsor of today's event, Helen Brand, Chief Executive of ACCA. Hello there, and lovely to see you both. Pia, I'd like to start with you, please. Just if you could tell us a little bit more about this category, about the Women in Power category.
Absolutely, Maeve, and good afternoon to all. It's an honor to be here and to be part of the jury this year. Indeed, this category, Women in Power, is for women who show extraordinary political leadership in Europe. It's about women who hold important political leadership and decision-making roles, who have broken new ground as women in politics, and crucially, who contribute to the European project. So in short, they're really women shaping the European realm of politics and the future of Europe.
And Pia, just briefly, will you tell us what exactly you were looking for you in the jury when you voted for the winner of this category?
Yes, I was definitely looking for an outstanding contribution to the European Union and to European integration, looking for outstanding women leadership and also resilience in the face of adversity. And then I was looking for role modeling for women in politics and beyond, with those qualities that Eva MAYDELL was referring to of courage, compassion, and patience.
And just before you tell us who the winner is, can you tell us a bit about your personal experience working as a woman in the European institutions, how you overcame challenges you've faced as a woman?
things were indeed very different from what they are today. When I started my work in the Commission, I think we were about roughly 4% of women managers. And so you rarely bumped into another woman leader in the corridors or in the meetings. And of course, I was a relatively young official at that time. And I remember that when I did my first interview, indeed, to join the Commission after having gone through the concours system, I was asked if I made a good cup of coffee. And I did not take that particular job. I hasten to underline, but indeed, we're in a very different situation, as I said. Now, for the first time, we have a woman president of the European Commission. I'm very proud to work under her leadership. She leads a gender-balanced college. She has been very ambitious when it comes to equal opportunities by setting the objective of 50% women managers by the end of this mandate. And I think that sends also in our own organization a powerful message to women with ambition. And I think we're getting close because now overall, the number of women in management in the Commission is around 45%. And where and the DG, the Directorate General, the department that I have the privilege to lead, we have even exceeded the target of gender parity. So again, a lot has changed and for the better during my career. But of course, there's a lot more to do, both here in the Commission and in the rest of society. And precisely this award is an incentive and encouragement to all women in political leadership positions and beyond.
Okay, Pia, a lot has changed, but a lot more to do indeed. Thank you so much for that. Now let's bring in Helen Brand, Chief Executive of ACCA, the global body for professional accountants with 227,000 members across 176 countries. Helen, lovely to see you there. Thanks for joining us. First, tell us why you thought it was important to support the Women of Europe Awards and add your voice to the message that it's carrying.
Well, I'm incredibly proud to take part in this really important prize, which is putting a spotlight on the inspiring work and initiatives of these fantastic role models, and also crucially promoting European values such as equality, inclusion and diversity. We need to celebrate women's achievements whilst also highlighting inequality and the progress that still needs to be made. Overcoming barriers to equality remains one of the world's greatest challenges, and I praise the organisers for the very important work that they do in that direction. So since our foundation in 1904, ACCA has been driven by the highest professional and ethical values. And amongst those, equality, diversity and inclusion are especially close to our heart. ACCA came into being to create a body for accountancy professionals that was open to all. And we're proud of being the first professional accountancy body to admit women members back in 1909, and for pioneering many other notable milestones in the profession's evolution. For example, the first professional accountancy body to elect a female president. So championing equality remains central to everything we do. And the diversity our open access policy has enabled is one of our greatest strengths. And we see this reflected across our membership, and our female membership currently stands at around 48%, rising to 59% for our student population of 500,000. So in December 2020, we published ACCA's commitments to the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the specific commitments we made to deliver Goal 5, gender equality, and Goal 10, reduced inequalities, I think speaks to our championing of this issue. But while articulating and communicating these values is clearly important, it's even more important to be living up to them, to play our part towards a much needed cultural shift and to empower women.
Okay, Helen Brand, thank you so much for that. Now, Pia, the moment we've all been waiting for, can you announce, please, who the winner is of the category Women of Europe in Power Awards?
I can indeed. Thank you very much. It's my great honor to announce that Dr. Angela Merkel has won the Women in Power Award for her work in promoting and fostering European integration as well as playing a decisive role in managing the crisis in the European Union in her 16 years of German chancellorship.
Thank you, Pia. And congratulations to Dr. Angela Merkel, who was a little bit too busy to join us today, but was very grateful for the honour. So we wish her all the best with her retirement. Pia, thank you so much. And Helen Brand, thank you so much for joining us. And we can move on now to Women in Action, zooming in on women undertaking extraordinary actions at grassroots level. With 3 shortlisted nominees in this category. First, Jenny Rasch, founder and chairwoman of the Association Kinderhilfe für Siebenbürgen. Through her work, Jenny has been tirelessly helping to integrate Roma children in Europe. She's made sure that hundreds of Roma children learned how to read and write, and she's also been helping have houses renovated and water pipes built. The next one up is Inita Zimela. She's a Latvian judge at the Court of Justice of the European Union, and she's also the founder of the Institute of Human Rights at the University of Latvia. And the third one is Gina Miller, a well-known activist and anti-Brexit campaigner, known mostly for holding the UK government accountable on more than one occasion. So for more on this category, I'm delighted now to welcome Elizabeth Adams. That's the president of the European Federation of Nurses Association, the federation that won the Women in Action Award, of course, back in 2020. Hello to you. And also I'd like to say hello to Snežka Kvadlich-Mihajlović, the Secretary General of Europa Nostra. Lovely to see you both. Elizabeth, I'd like to start with you. Can you just tell us more about this category, about women in action? I think you're on mute there. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much for this lovely opportunity to join you this evening and, of course, to be here with you and the great panelists and the distinguished members as well. And really, you know, the European Federation of Nurses had the great pleasure to win this award last year on behalf of all nurses across Europe. So it was recognition of every single nurse on the ground and the work that they continue to do. It was a privilege and a pleasure to all nurses. It just brought joy to many people's hearts. So this Women in Action Award is really an important category. It's about the extraordinary work and actions at grassroots level. And often when we're trying to do equality and parity in roles, we're looking upwards. But the absolutely fundamental work that is done at the grassroots is really so important because it makes the difference and it changes the world. And unless we have extraordinary people like our 3 shortlisted individuals here, if we hadn't these people changing the ground, there would be a very slow uptake in relation to making a change for the future. And I'm sure my fellow panelist and judge Snežka would agree with me that it was extraordinarily difficult to choose in this category because each of the 3 were quite incredible in relation to not only protecting the most marginalized, but also protecting human rights, which only extends to the whole of society. So this is a really important category and delighted to be here with you.
Elizabeth, you mentioned there Snežka, your fellow jury member. So Snežka, let's hear from you then. What were you looking for in this category exactly?
Thank you, and greetings from Brussels. I'm delighted to speak about the nominated wonderful women for this category, especially because I'm also an activist. I have been for the last 30 years an activist for cultural heritage and culture in Europe. And so I'm particularly keen on celebrating the role of so many women of all generations and all backgrounds, fighting, working on the ground for promoting European values, because that's something that I think is at the heart of the European project. It is the very wide range of our values, and we need so many organizations and so many people and so many women to cherish them and to fight for them, because as we all know, our values are also very much threatened in today's world due to so many emergencies, from the climate emergency to the democracy emergency. And so it's very interesting that the three nominators, all three nominators in these categories, are in fact extraordinary women who are fighting for and defending human rights, rights of minorities, rights of Romas, and also the one who has been fighting and continues to fight for European values in United Kingdom.
Absolutely, Sneska. And Elizabeth, I'm just curious to know, because of course I remember speaking to you this time last year. It feels like we just clicked our fingers and here we are again a year later. How are your nurses doing now? How is their morale as Europe now is in the thick of the fourth wave with new variants spreading like wildfire? How are they doing?
Well, it's incredibly difficult, and I think I articulated that last year as well. You know, it's very tough times, and it just is absolutely relentless. But typical of many women, and we're predominantly women in nursing. We have some men, but predominantly women that really, you know, they're so committed, compassionate. They keep their facing forward and just trying to care for patients all the time. So they're quite incredible individuals, but there's no doubt that they are exhausted and burnt out. But I can absolutely assure you their commitment to ensuring that everybody is cared for appropriately and compassionately is relentless.
Okay. Thank you so much. Well, Elizabeth, I would like to invite you now to please announce the winner of this category, Woman in Action.
Well, it's my absolute privilege and pleasure. It was so difficult to choose, I know, the panel in relation to this, but Jenny Rasch has won the Woman in Action Award for her efforts in opposing the exclusion and stigmatization of Roma families, in particular children, by founding and chairing an incredible association, Kinder for Siebenbergen. And Jenny, to you and your team, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. But I have my tears.
We're giving you a virtual hug from Brussels. Congratulations on the award. How do you feel accepting this?
I'm so emotional, and I tried to say good what I want to say. When I was a little girl, I often asked my mother, Mom, what can anyone do to make the world a better place? What can be done to prevent children from starving? Mom, what can I do? And then she always looked at me so lovely and told me about some people who were driving to improve things simply because of their human greatness. People who haven't thought of themselves and whether helping could be a disadvantage to them. They explained me what humanity means and how every human has deep wisdom that every little change in our actions can mean the world for another person. It's up to us what we make of it. And that, as long as I wish for it, I can learn everything. I knew how lucky I was growing up in peace, having access to the education while she held me in her arms and gave me the protection that a little girl needs in order to dream of a better world. It will be many years before the dream of my childhood was allowed to move back into my life and take its place. And the moment came, it was almost as if it never left, because maybe it never ever left. It was only slowly getting a feel for the size of the world and its problems. The longing to change something made room for fear that can arise with such a project. The words of that woman who watched over my dreams were the ones who saw me on my way to a distant country to do exactly what my heart told me to do. She never spoke a word of doubt. Did I have doubt? Oh yes, I did. And it would be a lie. It would be lies to say I didn't cry. The direct confrontation with the suffering that the imbalances of this world The growth upon people was almost unbearable. I knew a lot from television, but without the remote control in my hand, the reality intensified the experience. How exclusion and racism really feel like, and how ugly death can be if there has never been a real chance for the respective soul. I, and I got to know them, the strong women who are not known, who changed my way of thinking. I will never forget the dear face of Buni, an old dear soul on the edge of Europe who spent her life in a little hut in bitter poverty. She never cried, she never complained, and she saved so many children from the orphanage that only she knows how many they really were. My eyes saw how young girls managed to get their degree despite all difficulties in their life. Beside the flight of knowledge, I saw the power of perseverance in their eyes. Nobody saw them crying. And I was allowed to accompany women who have overpaced themselves, women who dared to venture into the future despite the difficult past, women who, unaware of their rights, stood up for themselves and were able to change society. When rural villages were built before my eyes in the first time, I was overwhelmed by the positive energy that seemed to float like a charm inside the future residents. I came here today to receive a major Woman in Action award, a great honor after many years of activity, what seems to be another world and yet lies in the middle of Europe. The actions never have been possible without my team. The news about the award was a huge surprise for us. The reward to me is being able to stand here this year for all active women in Europe, every single one on her own way. It fills my heart with great joy to see how this energy makes Europe a better place for children. And just guessing how many tasks are still ahead of us, knowing that we don't need to wait a single minute to start tackling it, as my sister always said. Should give us the bravery to dream of a Europe where all people have the same chances. A Europe in which little girls like I was are allowed to be active, to follow exactly the way their heart tells them to. For this award, I would like to thank my entire team and all women I was able to learn from. For me, it's a great incentive to keep fighting where the streets have no names, and the deep hope that one of our students maybe one day will stay here. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Jani Rasch there, founder and chairwoman of the Association of Kinderhilfe for Siebenberg. And thank you to you, and also thank you to your team who, of course, behind the scenes are doing amazing things, changing the world around you. So thank you so much for that beautiful acceptance speech. And we'll definitely chop up little bits of it as well and put it out on social media for those who didn't catch it all. Thank you so much, Jenny, for that. And congratulations. Now we can move on to the Women in Business category. And for this, we have as well 3 shortlisted nominees. This zooms in on those women that are advancing European integration with entrepreneurial spirit. First up, a woman you've all heard of, I'm sure, Dr. Özlem Türeci, the physician, lecturer and entrepreneur, one of the faces of the BioNTech anti-COVID vaccine. Also shortlisted is Anne Negre, lawyer on behalf of University Women of Europe, known for advancing equality in France, and she even helped get more women on boards of companies in not just France, but all over Europe. And Tijen Onaran, a CEO and founder of Global Digital Women, who, according to Manager magazine, is one of the 100 top most influential women in the German economy, and she's also one of the few LinkedIn influencers worldwide. So for more on this category, I'd like to bring in now ASHA Allen. ASHA Allen is the Advocacy Director for Europe's Online Expression and Civic Space. And I'd also like to bring in once again and say hello to Federica Mogherini, Rector of College of Europe. Thank you so much to you both for being with us for this section. So I'll start perhaps with ASHA. ASHA, can you tell me more about this category, about women in business?
Thank you so much, and it's an honor to be here with you today to celebrate these women. As you mentioned, I'm ASHA Allen, Advocacy Director for the Center of Democracy and Technology, a not-for-profit advocacy organization focused on protecting human rights and democratic values in digital policy at European level. And we are so pleased to be supporting the awards this year. I've actually had the honor of being involved in the awards over the last few years, and I want to take this moment to celebrate the incredible work of European Movement International and the European Women's Lobby for everything that they do to celebrate women every year and in advancing women's rights. And in this particular category, for me, I think it's so important because what we are doing is celebrating women in leadership, celebrating women in an area that for over a century, so many have fought for to ensure that we have access to and that we have representation in, to increase our socioeconomic independence and to transform the very industries that shape so many aspects of our modern life. And so often for women that have to navigate often male-dominated industries and entrenched stereotypes in many industries that still persist, it often can hinder them. And so to be able to celebrate these incredible women in this category today is so important. And for me, having read their stories, what was so clear was a quote that came to my mind as I read through them. And that's from the activist Angela Davis, who once said, "We must always attempt to lift as we climb." And that for me is what embodied by these awards and of course by the nominees that we have here today in this category. They provide us with so much inspiration and leadership and so much transformative change in precisely what it is that they do. So I'm so honored to be here as part of the jury and to help present this award today.
Thank you so much, Asha Allen. You're doing a wonderful, wonderful job there presenting that award. Thank you for that lovely speech and that very inspirational quote that I'm definitely going to requote. So thank you for that. And Federica Mogherini, similar question to you. What characteristics were you and the other jury members looking for when voting for the winner of this category?
I have to admit that I think that all the other jury members, I think we all found it very difficult to choose because all the profiles were amazing and all of them were inspiring in one way or the other. But I think that in particular, the category of women in business, we were looking for, as Asha said, someone that could inspire and also show that women can take a leadership position also in sectors that are traditionally not associated with women in leadership roles. And every time that one of us manages to open a new door and become the first in a sector to play a leading role, I think that this is somehow has a sort of double or triple value because it can inspire many young women in particular to follow her steps and believe that a career in that particular sector is possible. And if, you know, the role of the role models is this one, to show that a door has already been opened and others can follow on the same steps. It is difficult. As Asha mentioned, I think that we are all aware that the category of business, women in business leading positions is maybe one of the most challenging ones because it is indeed a very man-dominated world. But I think, well, not the only one, but I think that we have indeed excellent nominees tonight, and it has been a difficult choice to choose together with the other jury members, the one that is receiving the award tonight.
Well, without further ado, Federica Mogherini, you can tell us who the winner of the Women in Business Award is.
I am honored to announce that the winner for this category is Dr. Özlem Türeci, physician, immunologist, lecturer, and entrepreneur. She has won the award for her efforts in science and entrepreneurship in Europe for developing the first EU-approved vaccine against COVID-19 in 2020, thus making a substantial contribution to containing the pandemic in Europe and in the rest of the world. Dr. Türeci was not able to be with us today, but has sent us a video to accept her award.
Great.
It is an honor for me to be among the honorees of this year's Women in Europe Award. I would like to thank the European Movement International and the European Women's Lobby for recognizing me with this award. I share this honor with the entire BioNTech team and our dear fellows in science, academia and business, who have shown over the past 23 months that the power of science can be multiplied when we work together to tackle the world's most pressing problems. There are two reasons why I am particularly humbled. Firstly, because the award perfectly reflects values which are close to my heart, to foster cooperation across borders, regardless of where people are or where they come from, to be brave and entrepreneurial, to dare to try something new in the pursuit of achieving the seemingly impossible, for a better tomorrow, for a better situation for humankind. Secondly, because it is an award honoring and highlighting the important role of women in science and our society. We, the women awarded today, have the honor and the pleasure of such recognition, not because we are the exceptions, but because we represent the many women who have assumed outsized roles responding to COVID-19 as frontline healthcare workers, as mobilizers in their communities, vaccine developers, policymakers, and caregivers at home. At BioNTech, we are fortunate. We have 60 nations under our roof, and women make up 54% of our total workforce. Also, women account for almost half of our top management. We like to think that being a gender-balanced team has been critical to making the seemingly impossible possible, developing a COVID-19 vaccine within 11 months without shortcuts. Major breakthroughs in science and research take time, vision, the appropriate financial resources, a dedicated team, and inclusion. And it's not only about gender equality, it's about the diversity of backgrounds, of cultures that enable to tackle a complex problem from various directions. I'm optimistic that we will defeat this global challenge if we continue in our efforts to trust in science, to trust in the provided data, and to continue to mobilize all groups of our rich and colorful European society. Rest assured that we at BioNTech will continue to contribute to respond to the challenges of global scale, not only to the current pandemic, but also to other challenges where we need to work on as a global community. These are infections that pose a high unmet medical needs, such as malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV, which tragically are all still highly prevalent and contribute to high mortality in many countries. We live in a time of historic advances in biomedical research that hold extraordinary promise for the development of new medicines. Only by further encouraging investment of resources into solutions and innovations, and by fostering a culture of cooperation and cross-fertilization, will new industries become sustainable change makers to public health. Thank you again for this great honor. May the celebration of the 2022 award be under conditions of normality, a better normality that is gender inclusive.
Grazie. Thank you so much to her, and congratulations to her. Very assuring speech from her, exactly the kind of optimistic tone that we need. And thank you so much there to Federica Mogherini, jury member, and ASHA Allen there, another jury member, Advocacy Director for Europe, Online Expression and Civic Space. Thank you so much to you both. And now we can move on to our fourth and final award. It is Woman in Youth Activism. This zooms in on women who are between the ages of 15 and 30 that are strengthening the voice of young women all across the continent. Now, there's 3 women shortlisted for this category. First up, Greta Thunberg, the Swedish climate change activist credited with raising global awareness, especially among young people, on the risks posed by global warming. Next up, Zorana Milanovic, project manager at European Movement Serbia, and a women's activist for years, especially supporting the LGBTQ community. And third, Zara Karimi, advocate for women and children's rights over in Finland and all across Europe, and she's nationally renowned as a climate activist and for her work fighting racism. So now I would like to invite PIRKKO MAHLAMAKI, Secretary General of the Finnish Disability Forum, and Maria Atasananova, volunteer and advocate for integration of Roma youth, and the winner, in fact, of the Women of Europe Award for Youth Activism back in 2020. So lovely to see you both. Sorry for probably not pronouncing your names there correctly, so I do apologise for that, but I'm delighted to see you, and thank you so much for your contribution as jury members. I'd like to start with you, PIRKKO. Can you tell us more about this category? I'm sure it was really hard, in fact, to find somebody with so many women, in fact, young women, taking the streets there, trying to change the world around them. Tell us more about this category exactly.
Yes, it was an exciting category to look and also to see the energy and also the impact that these women have been able to create in their countries and in Europe and even globally in some cases. I would, as a young at heart person, perhaps object to the categorization to the end of youth at 30, but I'm still proud to be able to work together with them, work together with the young generation to make Europe better for all and an inclusive Europe for all.
An inclusive Europe for all, so important. And Maria, how about you? What was it like for you being on the jury this time?
Hello, everyone. It was actually very touching for me being part of the jury and seeing so many inspiring young women. I was it was very difficult for me to really have a favorite one. And I'm actually very happy to see so many women that they made it through. And in some cases, you can really see how one person can really engage so many other people and have such an impact, which is absolutely delightful to see. We need to see more examples because especially young girls in these days underestimate themselves so much because of so many stigmas in society. And I'm delighted to be part of this jury of the European Movement International and really happy to see so many women that they made it through.
They made it through just like yourself. And PIRKKO, tell us what traits and characteristics you were looking out for when you were voting on this category.
Obviously, first the impact, but also the fact how you manage to bring others to your movement, to create links to other movements and to create solidarity between movements. And I think that is also very important to note. Obviously, climate change is going to be a major challenge for us in coming years. So any citizen activism around that is commendable. But also, I saw that all the young women we were looking at and their work was very effective in not only raising the profile of an issue, but also challenging us to be better, us to do better, and to do better in a way that is truly European, in the sense that we are more together than we are apart. This was my main motivation in making the very difficult choice between the three candidates.
Okay, we're more together than we are apart. What lovely words. Thank you so much, PIRKKO. So Maria, without further ado, can you please share with our viewers who the winner of this Women in Youth Activism Award is in 2021?
I'm really honored to announce that the winner in youth activism is Greta Thunberg. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg has won the award for her effort in climate activism and for being an inspiration for youth and not only.
Congratulations to Greta Thunberg, and thank you so much to you, Maria, for bringing us the news today, and for PIRKKO. And just fun fact, I interviewed Frans Timmermans, the face of the European Green Deal, just the other day, and he told me that without Greta Thunberg and the Friday for Future marchers, there would be absolutely no Green Deal. So hats off to Greta, and well done to her. And thank you so much to everyone, in fact, today who's joined us online. Congrats to all the shortlisted, congrats to all the winners, and thank you so much to the European Movement International. Thank you, of course, also to the European Women's Lobby for making this annual event a reality. I hope you all stay safe, take care, and I look forward to seeing you again this time next year for what will then be the 7th edition of the Women of Europe Awards. Take care, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.